All right, Nick, tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us about how you got into... Have you always been in hairdressing?
Yeah, I started hairdressing when I was 16, but I knew I wanted to do it from when I was 11. And I just because
Why 11?
I went to an all boys grammar school. I was meant to be doing. My brother went into banking and stuff. I was into horses and hairdressing, and I just started. Literally, I finished my last O level on the Tuesday, I remember, and I started work on the Wednesday as a hairdresser.
And that was in a local branch?
That was up in Lincolnshire, and I had about 3, not quite, just 3 years, I think I worked there. 3 years there, and then I had there were some companies that came down from the south to treat teachers, because it's a big salon. There was about 40 stylists in this salon up in Lincolnshire, and then I literally thought, that's what I want to do. These guys know how to cut hair. Left home at 19, moved down south, and then got on the floor, went on straight onto the salon floor, working as a hairdresser. Within a week, they told me I wasn't any good, and I needed to retrain. And I was so excited that they were going to retrain me, so I retrained. And within 2.5 years, I was managing that salon that I'd moved to.
Where was that?
That was out in Reading in Berkshire. Right. But that was a group. They had groups all over Berkshire, Thames Valley and stuff. And then I went to Australia for a year.
Well, that was interesting. Was that a complete change?
That was just for me to do me for a year. And but I worked there for a year. I did get a sponsorship to stay, but my aim was to move to London. So came back. I got offered a huge training job at 24 to train over 200 staff.
So you're training staff now? You're not hairdressing anymore?
Well, I was still hairdressing 2 days a week, then training 3 days a week. And then I left there to move to London. And then I was told I couldn't cut hair.
Again?
Yeah, and I had to retrain. And then I did another 3 years, and then I started doing all of the, as well as clients, doing all the show stuff, which is where you teach on big stages. So I was teaching 1,000, 2,000 people.
How can you go from teaching, doing hair, and then someone telling you don't have to cut hair?
Just how it is, different levels. Each salon has its own brand, which is probably what we could talk a bit about later, actually, because you develop a brand in the style and whatever. So anybody that joins you works within that brand environment. So that's what we were doing there. So basically, when I moved to London, I had to rechange to that brand and worked there for a bit. Then I moved back to the company I worked for. They then opened a salon in London. I worked there for another 9 years, and that's when I really travelled. I was away every month travelling, and they were huge.
Well, as part of the job? Or?
It's part of this job. So I was used as an educator for like L'Oreal through the brand that I work for. And we used to put on shows for 2,000 people, little head mics standing on a stage. Very bizarre. Anyhow, that became a bit easy. So then I thought that was too easy. I was travelling to South.
What are you doing on the shows? You're cutting hair?
Cutting hair on stage.
And you've got 2,000 people watching?
Yeah, on the big screens and stuff like that.
And they're there what? Learning?
Learning. And you're also promoting the colour brand as well.
Yeah.
So I did that for about 10 years, and then it became easy. I was going to South Africa, travelling, getting there in the morning, doing a casting, getting a show ready, prepping it for a day, doing the show the next day, flying to Cape Town, doing the same there, then flying back, but it was too easy. So I thought, this is time for somebody else to have a go. So I thought, that's it, let's call that a day.
So it was exciting times, huh?
They were really exciting times, and I went all over the place. It was all of Europe, the States, Japan, Thailand, Asia, everywhere, Indonesia.
Wow.
Funny old places that we went to. Anyhow, so then I thought, that's it. So then I came out of that, and I had a bit of time just for me, just doing clients, and then I was offered a franchise for a company called Harrington's that I worked for, which was in London. So I did that for about 9 years, and then obviously through knowing my friend Vicky and her dad wanted, on a holiday one time, just said, you need to do this on your own. It's time you had your own business. I'm prepared to be an investor. Yeah. And that's where it all began for Nicholas James and where we are now.
Let's step back a little bit. When you said you had a franchise, what's a franchise?
Franchise.
in hair? I know what a franchise is. What is how does it work with
So
hairdressing?
I worked for a brand, and they have salons that they own themselves. And then what happens for them to possibly keep somebody like me is, like a senior hairdresser, they give them an incentive and say, right, why don't you open your own salon? So you're taking on responsibility, but you're not in full responsibility. You've got the support there by you. So
And you're using all their products.
Using their products, you're under their brand development. So you're under their brand, their design, everything, and your fee for that is 10% of whatever your gross takings are. That was the catch, which in hairdressing, that's quite a big chunk out of your business. So for me, that was a bit too much, really. So
Are they also telling you what your costings are, what you charge per haircut?
You're working everything that they do. You're working alongside what they do. I was allowed a little bit freedom because I was in London, and me being the arty, creative stuff, I changed the look of the shop a little bit different to the brand, But yeah, you are under their parameters of how
when you're training, obviously there's all different aspects to it. So you're training to cut hair.
Yeah.
Are you also learning about colour?
Everything.
So is that what? And the process takes how long do you think to go from an apprentice to?
An apprentice. So there's routes in hairdressing. So an apprentice can start as at 16 or 18 or 21, whatever they want to do. The cost to the salon is more as they for the minimum wage sort of thing. So that you get an older trainee, you've got to get them through it quicker.
Yes.
So they'll start at that. They have two routes for training. They can either go straight to a college and they go full-time at college and they get their what we call level 1, level 2 or level 3, different levels of the training that they do. That takes 3 years. So level 1 and 2 is in 2 years, and then level 3 is the third year. But we, as a hair salon, take on trainees. I send mine to the college to get their level 2 and their level 3. So it takes 2 years and then another year. But I run alongside my training program, alongside the college training program. So,
what do you think is more beneficial, to do the apprenticeship style teaching or go straight to college?
I hate saying it because it's not fair on the colleges, but a college education, because they're only teaching to a level 2 and a level 3, is say that level. The training for them to get on the salon floor in my salon in the West End is that level.
Okay.
So I sort of work it on so it goes like that, and then I keep going with them to where I want. So level 2 and level 3 is a standard hairdressing format that across the country. So somebody in Yorkshire, in a little tiny village in Yorkshire, who has a salon with one salon stylist in it, that they can't have any time to train them or whatever, they get a standard of training. So it's a uniform training level for everybody, and then each salon has its levels.
And are they at that stage? Are they cutting hair?
Yeah, they do. They do cut hair, but it'll be to a standard.
Yeah.
Which is.
How does the customer know what they're getting when they come into your salon? How do they know whether this person is
good enough or not?
It's good enough. Yeah.
Well, through maybe social media, through their website, they can see what your salon's doing. You're.
Because you got to get.
Well, you don't. To be honest with you, you're not going to know. You're not really.
How do you get the?
Unless it's referral. We work on referrals. So,
of course, yeah. What about how do you get these young people's confidence up to feel they could cut someone's hair? Because it's quite a thing to actually
drag them along. No, they're good. Look, when you're taking on people, I take on people that have got something about them, and but they all come with their own things, like anybody does. But they're. It's hard. It's like doing a degree,
Yeah.
It's 3 years of hard graft. They've got to be in the salon. They're dealing with clients. They change. I notice them change. So somebody comes in at 16, you interview them at 16, and then you interview them at 16 and a half, different person.
Right. And why is that?
Confident. They're having to speak to people. They're meeting people.
Yeah.
Their phone's put away. They're doing something. You then get them motivated. They're so motivated on the training sessions.
Okay.
So, they go to college 1 day a week, 4 days with me. Half of one of those days I'm training them. So their training is the most important for them.
Tell us a little bit about what you were saying earlier about the branding. Before we go on to how you've created your salon going forward now, but you said about branding. What does that entail? 'Cause I don't know a lot about that.
Well, branding is...
You said a different salon will have a different.
It's not just the look of the place. Obviously, the look is one thing.
Yeah.
So your logo, your whatever is all one thing. but the brand of your salon is the work that you want. So I could
Okay.
name a few names like Daniel Galvin,
Mhm.
very well known for colour work. Daniel Hairdressing, bouncy, glamorous blow dries, ladies
Okay,
at lunch.
yeah.
My brand's a bit more of like the serious sort of businesswoman with the really polished haircut,
Mhm.
that does it themselves. They're busy women that do their hair themselves, and it's more of a professional.
Is there a style? Can you name a style that they would have, like a bob or
Yeah,
whatever?
like a bob.
Is that sort of
but
thing?
it's really well cut.
Yeah.
Everything's well done.
So that would,
If my clients would know if that side was that side and that side was there, that was a millimetre longer than that.
Yeah.
They're that sort of clientele. Whereas you've got different each. Tony and Guy, you've got the textured, layered, young things. You've got somebody in Camden that does maybe the shaving on the underneath and the bright colours. They've all got their own brands.
Okay.
And that's what you do. So my big tip for anybody going into hairdressing is that they look at the brand of the shop that they're going to work in, because that's what you're going to be taught. So if you want to be a hairdresser that does big bouncy blow dries, that glamour stuff, find the salon that does that. There's no point in coming to a salon in Camden that's doing all undercuts.
Yeah.
They're not going to teach you it.
Yeah.
So it's not what they do. So you have to find the right brand.
So is that what you mean when you change to another salon?
Yeah,
they would then have to rebrand you, basically.
But also the standards are up the game. From moving where I've moved from Lincolnshire to South, that made a big difference.
Yeah.
We're talking back in the 80s.
Yeah,
It's not so
yeah.
different now.
Yeah.
The standards are a bit more
And styles change, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and it's a bit more. The training's so much better
Yeah.
now than when I started. It was I didn't even know who Vidal Sassoon was when I started
Yeah.
hairdressing.
Yeah. Just had a perm.
I just did a perm. I did 40 perms a week probably.
And colouring, would it be similar colours? Same colour?
No, all of it's different. All of it's different.
How do you let me just ask you a quick question. So someone comes to your salon, they have the same colour every time.
Yeah.
Now, do you mix that colour? How do you...
Yeah, we do. I change it every time. So everybody that comes in gets a consultation. Some of my clients I've done for 30 years now, since I was, no more than that, 36 years.
Wow.
Since I was 19. They still come in and I still do the consultation and I still do, are we happy with what we've got here?
Yeah.
And as people age, you've got to change it. So you've got to change the colour.
What happens if you get someone and they're not happy with the colour you've done?
They're never not happy. No, they're not. But, well, no, I say that.
What about
I
other
say
people?
that. I've got one I'm redoing this week. There you go. There you go. So
All right.
there's
So you
one-
just redo it, basically.
Yeah,
You
you
redo
redo
it.
it. But
Okay.
usually it's expectation isn't where it should be, or I haven't told them or managed their expectation. That's usually where the problem lies.
Yeah.
We don't do anything where it's wrong. It's just managing expectations where they think they're going to get to, and you haven't told them that that's not possible this time.
Okay. So you've moved on now. You've been doing your franchise, was your last one before you actually took on your own salon.
Yeah.
So now you've decided to take on your own salon.
Yeah.
What was the big challenges there, Nick?
The challenge.
Yeah. What was the challenges finding the location?
There was the first was location, and then then we got the location, and then the biggest challenge was that we signed the lease. Builders came in. 2 weeks later, we went into lockdown. That was the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
But I think I gave myself 30 minutes to feel down in the dumps about it, and then I thought, right, let's crack on and get on with it. And that's what it was. And actually, for me, allowed me to get in there and annoy.
Give you a bit of time though, as well.
Yeah, you do. And I had, and actually to do all the things that you need to do, you don't realise that you've got all that stuff to do, really. All of the stuff for the website, all of the paperwork,
all the preparation
that you've got to do.
stuff before the start.
Yeah, and there's lots to go through all the time,
So,
and you still see it, you still keep adjusting it.
Yeah.
But it's gave me time.
What about when you're looking at a location? Obviously, you've got to take into consideration where your clients are coming from.
Yeah, for me, like my clients are from outside of London. They all travel in. No, I don't have a local clientele that around the area that the salon is. That's good for your suppose location is good for getting walk-ins for new staff.
You're based in
But
Great Portland Street, aren't
so
you?
central London. So Oxford Circus, Great Portland Street is the tubes. But the main thing for me was people coming into London from north, south, east, or west were coming to Oxford Circus is easy to get to.
Yeah.
So that whatever, if they're coming into Paddington, Victoria, King's Cross, Euston, Liverpool Street.
Did you take all that into consideration when you were doing
I've
it?
always been central London.
Yeah.
So because everybody's always come into the middle. I've had a circuit for the last 28 years of working in or around Oxford Circus. I've been within about, I've been at Cavendish Square, Regent Street, Great Marlborough Streets, Poland Street. They're all in a circle around, really.
What about your staffing now? Have you taken people with you that you know?
Yeah, so I had a few come with me, which progressively people move on. I've had 2 that were with me for over 12, 13 years that moved about 2 years ago. Those have been replaced. You just continually develop, really. My biggest thing is training from within. Then, as we were talking about the brand, they're true to my brand then. So, I've got one girl that's been with me for 2.5 years. She's on the floor now, but she's truly what I am, sort of thing. She colours exactly like me, cuts exactly like me, with her own style. But she's true to what my brand is. So the idea is you keep developing from within, and then you build your team that way.
And they build
Obviously,
their own
you've got to
clients.
bring other people in as well, but it's more difficult bringing in somebody external without retraining them.
So if you brought in someone externally from a different salon with a different style,
Yeah.
they're bringing in their clients.
Yeah.
They've still got to keep that style. They
Yeah.
can't move on to your style.
Yeah, they have, but you teach them bit by bit.
So they'll gradually move.
I've got somebody that's with me that has been. She's 60, whatever. I won't say her age, but she's 60 odd, say.
Yeah.
But she's got a big clientele. She has her own way of doing things, but slowly over a 2.5 year period, whether she would see this or not, but she has changed slightly.
Okay.
Because you work around the people that you work around. It's like in here, you'd work.
Yeah,
Everybody
definitely.
works next to each other. You sort of learn from that, don't you?
Yeah.
But, so they do manipulate. But if you need to do something, then you take them out for training.
So was it starting your own business? Was that really what you wanted to have?
I think it was the next stage because you can only go so far. And for you to do what you want to do, you've got to have your own business, really.
So you're happy that you've started your own business?
Yeah, no, totally.
And it's worked how you thought?
Totally.
Where were the challenges?
Well, COVID was the big challenge, but that wasn't too bad. Staff is always a challenge. Working out budgets, possibly, that's a big thing,
What about products?
Products we changed. That was a good thing about setting up. I was locked into a contract being a franchise with a big brand that we were locked to, L'Oreal. And I've been with them for over 30 years. And because I was my own business, I could then say, right, well, we can look at this now and see where we want to be. I did 2 days with every product brand, 2 days education with each one of them, the whole team, for a whole period of a summer. And then we decided the best brand that we wanted to be with. We came up with 2 brands, that we work with. So I've got one for styling, one for styling and backwash area. And I've got one for pure colour because I couldn't get the both out of one product brand. So, and that being my own business gave me the decision to do that. You see.
Well, give me on 2 bits of advice. What advice would you give someone wanting to go into the profession now?
In hairdressing.
In hairdressing.
From a young age.
From a young age.
Be enthusiastic. Find your salon that's the right work that you want to be trained for. Make sure that they're offering you training as well. I'm not going to say just don't go to college because that works for some people. It depends on what area you're in. But I would always go down and find yourself a great salon to work in that's going to give you education. My godson at the moment is learning to be a chef. And he's just done 2 years full-time at college. And I've got friends that are chefs in different restaurants in hotels in London. And they've just said to him, he needs to come out of college now. You need to get yourself in a good restaurant.
Start learning.
You start learning on the job, and that's where you're going to become something a bit different. So that's what, my guys that go to college now, they're way ahead of all the other guys that are there, because they've been taught.
And you're meeting people, and you're getting those skills, and you're learning from people around you, like you said about, the other
and you're working with people. It's about what
you're getting your skill, your people.
If you've been, you're 16 and you've never had to experience different age groups like that, it's about doing that.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I've got clients that are 85. I've got clients that are 3 years old. You know, they're experiencing everything really.
So what about if new styles are coming? Is there new styles coming out all the time?
We create them though.
You create your own styles and then you train your staff accordingly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it is. But there's always trends, and you have to watch what trends are doing. But then you come up with your own version of it.
Okay.
That's where the education comes in.
All right. What advice would you give someone looking to start up their own business? Someone who you've got two sorts of people here. You've got people generally like yourself who've been in hairdressing a long time, looking to take the plunge.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Have the right support behind you. I've got a good investor that I know and trust, and he trusts me.
Yeah.
I've got a good business partner who knows me and trusts me, and I trust her. You do need some backup where you need to spin off things. I think it's quite difficult if you do it on your own.
Yeah.
You know, the things that I talk through, you know, we talk through everything, so it's easier to spin off somebody else.
So you feel having a partner in it, maybe doing it would be good.
Whether they're a silent partner, but it's good to have somebody to talk to that
Some
you're doing
support.
with, really. Look at your location that you're in.
Yeah.
Look at your costs. Wages is the biggie.
Mm-hmm.
Wages, rent, VAT, all those sort of things.
How do you manage sickness?
Sickness, we don't have it. No, we don't have
Because
it.
obviously if you have clients lined up,
Yeah, we don't have it.
you don't have sickness.
No.
That's good. So you've got a good policy there.
I had a trainee 2 weeks ago that was off sick for a week, tonsillitis.
Yeah.
And her mum was, she's really sick, really sick. And I said, well, we just don't do sickness. No, but she's really sick. I said, well, she's going to have to learn we don't do sickness. But eventually, I don't have any, I don't know, maybe I'm lucky. No, people are sick, I can't say that. But
No.
But
as a general rule, you've
as a
been
general
you've been
rule-
lucky with sickness.
No,
People
nobody's
tend to-
been seriously ill,
that's good,
so that
yeah.
we have to worry about it. But you know, things like colds and coughs, they know I don't tolerate all that nonsense. If you've got a fully booked column, you've got to come in.
What do you love about doing the hairdressing?
I've always loved it. I
People?
like cutting hair. I like the people.
Yeah. You've obviously built up
some
good
people-
friendships with a lot
My
of people.
friends think, God, can't believe that you're any good at it because you can't stand people. But I like they do my head in. People do, but my clients don't. You know,
Yeah.
some of them.
So
no.
that's interesting that you're not really a people person, but you really enjoy working with people and your clients.
I like the people.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Every day is different. I like doing what I do. I'm a perfectionist, so I like cutting hair.
Yeah. And you make sure your staff follow your
Yeah,
trends.
and everybody in there is pretty on it.
Yeah.
You know, the salon's got a great vibe about it. Everybody's quite relaxed and fun, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's not like a strict salon at all, you know. And the salons have changed. You know, the time is changing. The whole module of hairdressing is changing. You know, that salon owners and having employed staff, that's definitely gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the self-employed coming in. There's a lot of renting the chairs. Not that I do that, but I do have 50-50 mix of employed and self-employed.
Yeah.
But I've done that I've been working like that for over 14 years now.
But that's giving you a balance.
Yeah, it has. And it
Sometimes
helps,
you need that.
and it helps the business a little bit,
Yeah, of
because
course.
you're then the self-employed, you're only paying them when they've
Yeah,
done the work.
and also it's give them the incentive. The harder they work, they're still
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
good money. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years?
Well, I'm making this one work first. So
Yeah. How long's
know,
this one been now going?
5 years.
5 years.
But we had 2 years where
We're just starting.
we're only trading for,
Yeah.
in the first 2 years, I think we only traded for 12 months in 2 years
Yeah.
because of all the lockdowns and everything. So, you know, really I'm saying that we've been working for 3 years. I feel now the business is now it's running. It's now doing its thing without me having to worry or do anything
Yeah,
about it,
yeah.
you know, so, which is good. But then we've got to go to the next level.
Do you feel you want to branch out, maybe have another
Not
salon?
yet. I want to do what I'm doing first. make
Or
sure-
just do well with the one you've got and make...
No, I think once this gets going, you know, you've got a capacity to what you can do in the space that you have, you know.
Yeah.
And there are days that we run out of chairs. You know?
Okay.
So, you know, there's 2 or 3 days a week that we're running out of space. So
Well, that's a good sign, isn't it?
it is, but you get to a point where does that go to move?
How do you move on? Yeah.
Yeah, because you've then got to take on another investment of looking at a new location. The refurb is the colossal bit, that you're paying back.
Or a bigger location.
Yeah, maybe that could be the next move. But at the moment, we're good where we are.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Nick, look, thanks for coming in. I really appreciate you coming in. So I want to try and get you in again in a few years' time to
See what happens.
see what's happened, because I'd like to see what's happened.
Yeah.
So on a closing thing, you think it's still a good business to be in?
I think it is. It's tough at the minute, and you hear all of the news about hairdressing and hairdressers. Big businesses are saying that they're not making any money or whatever. If you go into hairdressing, you've got to love hairdressing.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah. And it's not a 9 to 5. You work hard.
I say I'm not doing it for the money. I am doing it for the money, but I'm not doing it. Money isn't my main thing.
Yeah,
I just
love
doing what I do. You don't. Hairdressing is it's a bit like nursing.
Yeah.
You're doing it because you love doing what you're doing.
But
there is money to be made in it. You just got to be clever.
Obviously, I mean, the thing is about business, and this is what we talk about on the podcast, is it's beneficial as well financially.
Yeah.
It's got to be, because,
there's no point.
that's why people do it.
You've got to do it. That's why the big companies are struggling because of all the different things going on with NI and all of that. They're saying that it's taking out of their profit margin. But it's funny, you just have a look at it in hairdressing, it dwindles quite quickly what the expenses of everything are. But for me, I would say, if you want to do it, it's good, but get into a good salon. Yeah,
and you're learning to keep things in business nice and tight. You've learned how to, when things aren't so good, you've learned how to, manage all those things, which is really important. So have a good team, have a good investor.
Yeah.
And love the job.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, Nick. Thanks for coming in.
All right.
Lovely to see you. Love to see the dog.
My pleasure. She's been very good. Very good.
That's great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.